Let me give you some general but very important information about option C. I'm going to press C, and if I press enter I can just scroll through these first few screens of information. I'm going to assume that we're using a 24 volt power supply, so I'll press enter since 24 volts DC is assumed. I'm willing to lose 4 volts on my wire run, meaning that I know my speakers will work down to 24 minus 4 or 20 volts DC. That's explained down here also. So I'm willing to lose 4 volts. Speaker audio input impedance on the Valcom speakers, it's more like 1200 ohms, but 600 ohms is what's advertised, so the program defaults to 600 ohms. You can change this if you like. This is simply used to calculate the audio wire size required for the audio pair. Enter. 8 dB assumed for the audio dB loss. This comes from the fact that most of the page controls drive the line at minus 10 dBm, and the speakers will work down to minus 18 dBm, therefore you can lose 8 dB. Enter. The first thing I want to point out is that each of the speakers is entered in terms of its Valcom power unit value. If you enter a speaker, say 6 Valcom power units, the program will assume that the speaker is truly drawing 6 Valcom power units, which would be 300 milliamps, and all calculations will be based upon that. Let's put an example in. Let's say that we have 6 Valcom power units at 500 feet. Enter. Okay. Anytime the wire gauge falls below 24 gauge, as it did in this example, the program will give you its equivalent in pairs of 24 gauge. It says you can twist 3 pairs of 24 gauge together and have the same effect as 21 gauge. And it gives you this message. Reconfiguring with remote power supplies located closer to the speakers or horns they are powering will result in a smaller wire size requirement. What this means is you can always use 24 gauge on any wire run, but you'd have to use remote power supplies to do so. So by moving our power supply closer to this horn that we entered, we could use 24 gauge wire. Okay.